And a new report on teen gaming and gambling is raising eyebrows. The report shows that underage gambling is a growing concern for teens across the province. Annie Smith is the report's co-author and the executive director of the McCreary Centre Society, a non-government, non-profit organization committed to improving the health of BC youth. And she joins us now. Hi, Annie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. So tell us about the report.
Yeah, so we looked at the gaming and gambling behaviors of 38,277 12 to 18-year-olds. So that's grade 7 to 12 students across British Columbia. We've asked for the survey has been going for many years, and we've always asked about gambling behaviors, but obviously gaming is more of a newer thing. So this time we looked at gaming and gambling.
And what were the key findings from this report?
I mean, I think, when we look at gambling overall and we look at traditional gambling activities such as lottery tickets, that's gone down. So we've got less than half of young people buying lottery tickets compared to a decade ago, for example. But when we look at the newer ways of gambling, so online sports betting, playing games like cards and dice online, that's doubled or more than doubled in the past 5 years. So we're seeing this sort of shift. Obviously, online gambling is more accessible to young people than walking into a casino as a young person. So it is more accessible to young people, and we are seeing an overall rise in gambling. What we're also seeing on the gaming side is so many of the video games have a gambling element. The loot boxes and things that you can buy in games that you don't know what you're getting. It's very much a game of chance, and that was by far the most common activity that we saw young people doing for money.
And is there any correlation between young people? It's not officially gambling, but there are those aspects in video games. But does that then perhaps lead to more serious gambling once they get older, if they're exposed to this when they're younger?
Very much so. I mean, we saw the majority of young people who were gambling on a very regular basis were also gaming on a regular basis. Young people who were engaging in sports betting online were not doing that in isolation. They were often, engaging in gaming and other types of gaming activities as well, paying to stream video games and paying to play in gaming tournaments. So we see this real link between gambling and gaming.
And I'm curious if there's, some that are more vulnerable to underage gambling, or what the attraction is for some teens that are drawn to gambling or gaming for money.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some pure demographics. It's we see many more boys gambling than we see girls, for example. But we do also see young people living in poverty more likely to be gambling. It's a potential way out of not having what your friends have, that risk of maybe winning something big. So we see those sorts of young people gambling, but we also see young people who are lonely, young people who struggle to make friends in person. So maybe their only connections are online friends through the games and things like that. So definitely we see some young people vulnerable if they're living outside the family home, if they've been through the government care system. Young people, like those young people who are struggling at school maybe, or have been bullied, much more likely to be drawn, particularly to the online gaming and gambling.
And then what sort of impact does, that persistent gaming and gambling then maybe have on their health or their development?
Yeah, and when we look at, some young people are doing this every day, and we definitely see disrupted sleep, so that they're not getting their 8 hours of sleep, and then disrupted meal times, so skipping dinners, things like that. And then making up for that by drinking energy drinks, and then the knock-on effect, of sleeping in and missing school. So we see all these things, and we know that once you kind of start missing school, then it's young people, it's easier to disengage.
It's a never-ending cycle, and that leads to low self-esteem and isolation, which then perpetuates unhealthy coping mechanisms. What is the fix, though? We know what the problem is, but what is the fix?
I mean, we saw that some of the most robust protective factors are family knowing what they're doing, family being aware. So that kind of parental monitoring of time online and free time, as well as young people going offline at bedtime. So, and things like that. So I think those are absolutely key. But I think there's a role for all of us, because we definitely saw young people who are more connected to school, who had educational plans and hopes and goals for the future, were much less likely to be gaming and gambling, and if they were not at that problem where it was becoming problematic. They were doing it a couple of times a year, or a couple of times a month, but not really getting into the problematic area.
Is there anything that the municipal, provincial, or even the federal government can do to help this, to maybe crack down on this?
I mean, I think particularly around the sports betting,
Right.
Sports betting is something that we've seen the big rise in for young people. And you can't go to a hockey arena or watch a game on TV or stream a game online without seeing so much advertising for sports betting that it becomes normalized, and there's an easy route in. So I do think, we could clamp down on who's sponsoring teams and those kind of pieces as well. We've seen this huge drop off in lottery tickets, which we know is kind of closely regulated, and young people kind of can't access those in the way that they could have at one time. So we definitely see this role for government as well.
Annie, what is your message to say a teen who might be struggling with this issue right now?
I mean, I think it's, know those times when you're vulnerable. If you tend to spend money on it late at night, then try not to go on late at night. I know it's easier said than done, but, there's parental controls. Can you get those on? Could you talk to a trusted adult before you went in a game that might take money off you, or that might encourage you to bet? So have an open and honest dialogue, and reach out to people if you're struggling, and there are resources out there for young people who need them, in terms of both gaming and gambling, if it's got to the point where they're thinking they needed help. So I really would say to reach out.
Annie, I really appreciate you taking time with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Annie Smith is the executive director of the McCreary Centre Society, a non-government, non-profit organization committed to improving the health of BC youth.